However, what she said next nearly made me drop my jaw to the floor. I couldn't believe how dumb it sounded.
If Chuck is willing to marry you, then he'd surely be interested in one of us. After all, we are way prettier than you and he from a wealthy family.
I'm sorry, what? I don't think I heard you correctly.
You've always been difficult. But your sisters, your beautiful sisters, are still unmarried. If Chuck sees Emily in the right setting, he'll realize he's making a mistake with you and choose her instead. It would be best for the family for her to marry him instead of you.
So it's okay for her to marry an Asian man, but not me?
We thought that maybe you would reconsider marrying him if we disapproved because of his race, but we don't care about the color of his skin. We only care that he is wealthy, and it's unfair that you should get married when your much more attractive sisters are still single. They deserve a rich husband like him. You don't.
I stared at them, my mind blank with disbelief. They genuinely thought Chuck, my fiance, would just swap me out for a better model. I exhaled slowly. Suddenly, an evil idea popped into my head, and I had to suppress a devilish smile from appearing on my face as it dawned on me what I could pull off. They say family is supposed to love you unconditionally, but mine never did. From the moment I was born, I was nothing more than an inconvenience to my parents. My sisters, Emily and Sarah, were their perfect little princesses, showered with love, praise, and every opportunity imaginable. Me? I was the unwanted extra, the one they barely tolerated. Hi, my name is Lola, and this is the story of how I finally got my revenge on my family that viewed me as just a spare child. For starters, even at a young age, my parents told me that I was an accident. They had only ever wanted 2 children, and I was just an unwanted mistake.
Oh, Emily and Sarah, you two are such wonderful little angels. You make us so incredibly proud.
And what about me, Mama? Don't I make you proud?
You? Why would we be proud of an ugly little runt like you? No, Lola, we really have no expectations for you. Just don't get in the way and do your best to always make sure your sisters feel special.
But I'm special too. I'm really smart. I get good grades in school.
Oh, shut up! No one cares about how you do in school. The reality is that you are ugly and no one will ever want to marry you. So of course you have to be smart. Sadly though, no one will ever hire you for a job that pays well. But you can always go and beg on the street. Someone as homely as you should get a lot of sympathy from people.
The cruelty was the point. They wanted me to feel inferior to my sisters. Growing up in that house made it hard to have a strong self-esteem. No matter what I achieved, they made a point of constantly pushing me down. My parents made no effort to hide it. But there were certain moments that cemented just how little I mattered to them. When I was 10, my parents threw a massive birthday party. Not for me, of course, but for Emily. They rented out an entire venue, had a professional magician, a DJ, and even a catered dinner. I spent hours helping set up, foolishly thinking that maybe, just maybe, my birthday, which was only 3 days later, would get some recognition too. When my birthday came, my parents handed me a store-bought cupcake with a single candle.
Make a wish.
Is that all? Don't I get a party like Sarah?
We're tired, Lola. Be grateful you got anything at all. If they weren't giving away the day-old baked goods, then you wouldn't have gotten anything actually.
That is so typical of her. She is never thankful for anything.
That was the moment I realized I was never going to matter to them. By the time I reached high school, I had stopped expecting kindness. When a boy I had a crush on for years finally asked me to the winter formal, I was ecstatic. I saved up for my own dress. Nothing extravagant, but it made me feel beautiful. The night of the dance, just as I was about to leave, my mother stopped me. She looked at me in my dress with a sneer on her face.
I don't know where you are going, but Sarah needs the car.
But I have a date. This is really important for me.
Guess you should have planned better.
Sarah's plans are more important, Lola.
Fine, I'll just take a cab then.
No. You will stay home and watch the house. We don't want to leave it empty all night.
But what about all of you?
Well, we're bored, and since Sarah is going out, we figured maybe we would go see a movie or maybe just go out for coffee. We're not sure yet, but we'll think of something.
I watched in helpless anger as Sarah drove away, followed by the rest of my family in the other car, leaving me standing in the living room in my dress, feeling like the biggest fool in the world. That was the first time I truly hated them. That night had been incredibly important for me, and they couldn't care less. In fact, they ruined my plans without even thinking about it at all. They didn't even view me as a person. As soon as I was old enough, I left and never looked back. I moved as far away as I could, and I built a life for myself, made real friends, and finally found happiness away from them. Just being away from them did wonders to my self-esteem and mental state. I found myself smiling more and feeling more alive than I had in many years. Then I met Chuck. Chuck was different. He was kind, funny, and respected me in ways I had never experienced before. He made me feel like I was someone worth loving. When he proposed, I said yes without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I was happy. Then my family came crawling back. I hadn't heard from them in years when my mother suddenly called. Confused, I answered thinking that maybe something horrific had happened. I mean, I couldn't imagine a reason as to why they would ever bother me again. Hey there. What do you want?
Is that really the way you should speak to your mother? Listen, we heard you're getting married to a wealthy Asian guy.
Yes, I am, actually. So,
We need to talk. Come home.
against my better judgment, I went. My parents sat in their pristine, cold living room, Emily and Sarah perched beside them. My father cleared his throat.
We don't approve.
I laughed. Actually laughed. What on earth made them think that I cared what they did and didn't approve of? You don't approve? Since when do you care what I do with my life?
Lola, let's be reasonable. You're making a mistake, okay?
Okay? Let's pretend that I care what you think for a second. How exactly am I making a mistake?
Well, isn't it obvious? Do you really want to marry someone like him?
Like him?
Yes. Can you imagine how your children will look like? Do you really think marrying someone Asian is a good idea?
You think it's a bad idea because Chuck is Asian? Have you lost what few brain cells that you people collectively had? They exchanged nervous glances. It was clear that there was more going on than what they were saying.
It's not just that.
Oh, do tell. Emily, ever the smug, golden child, sneered at me. She looked me up and down, clearly judging me, although the joke was on her. There was probably a time when it would have bothered me and I would have withered at such a glance. But now I had confidence in myself and I saw it for the petty and pathetic attempt of weak person to attack me. However, what she said next nearly made me drop my jaw to the floor. I couldn't believe how dumb it sounded.
If Chuck is willing to marry you, then he'd surely be interested in one of us. After all, we are way prettier than you and he from a wealthy family.
I'm sorry, what? I don't think I heard you correctly.
You've always been difficult. But your sisters, your beautiful sisters, are still unmarried. If Chuck sees Emily in the right setting, he'll realize he's making a mistake with you and choose her instead. It would be best for the family for her to marry him instead of you.
So it's okay for her to marry an Asian man, but not me.
We thought that maybe you would reconsider marrying him if we disapproved because of his race, but we don't care about the color of his skin. We only care that he is wealthy, and it's unfair that you should get married when your much more attractive sisters are still single. They deserve a rich husband like him. You don't.
I stared at them, my mind blank with disbelief. They genuinely thought Chuck, my fiance, would just swap me out for a better model. I exhaled slowly. Suddenly, an evil idea popped into my head, and I had to suppress a devilish smile from appearing on my face as it dawned on me what I could pull off. Okay,
You agree with us?
yes. You're right. Let's do this your way. I don't know what I was thinking.
Excellent. Well, let's plan a wedding then.
That night, Chuck and I sat in our apartment, sipping wine as I explained my plan. He knew what my family had put me through growing up, so as soon as I explained it to him, he was on board.
You want me to fake an engagement to Emily?
Yes. Tell them you'll consider marrying her, but only if they throw the most extravagant wedding party possible. Hundreds of guests, an insane budget.
And then?
And then, my love, we humiliate them beyond repair. Emily practically threw herself at Chuck the moment he announced he was interested.
I just need to make sure everything is perfect. I don't want to rush into anything, and it's tradition for my people to not even kiss before the wedding, so don't get any funny ideas. That way our passions will be even more unbridled the night of our wedding.
My parents and sisters, thinking they had won, set about planning a wedding reception so lavish it made royal weddings look dull. They invited nearly 1,000 people, racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in expenses for flowers, table arrangements, bands, DJs, and a meal that could feed 10,000 people. Then, the night before the ceremony, as Emily prepared to become Mrs. Chuck, the real event took place. Chuck and I made a video of the two of us exposing that it had all been a ruse and that Chuck would never marry Emily. We then passed off the video to someone who would attend the ceremony and have the video played just as people began to get nervous that Chuck wasn't there. At the height of the ceremony, the guests gathered in the church. Then a projector screen was rolled out and the man we had hired to play the video did so. The screen came to life. Chuck and I sat side by side on the screen, smiling. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment to personally thank my loving family for everything they've ever done for me, which is pretty much nothing at all. You are truly the worst family that ever lived. We both wanted to let you know how horrible we think you are.
And we wanted to let you all know that I would never, under any circumstances, marry someone as hideous as Emily. I mean, really, it was a hilarious idea, thinking I would trade one daughter for another. But it was doomed from the start. I love Lola, and only Lola.
And as for my dear family, I just want to say, enjoy the debt, because you will never see a dime of Chuck's money. I really hope the meal is worth it. The room exploded into chaos. Emily screamed, my mother fainted, and my father turned an unnatural shade of purple. The video ended with Chuck and me waving. We're off to the Caribbean. Have fun cleaning up this mess. Chuck and I eloped and got married at a private ceremony on a beautiful beach in the Caribbean. We then spent a whole month down there as a honeymoon and as a way to treat ourselves for pulling the wool over the eyes of my family. When we returned home, we blocked every single one of my family members, although it didn't take them long to find ways of still reaching us. Meanwhile, the wedding ceremony disaster had gone viral. People at the wedding had recorded our video and the ceremony and posted them to social media sites, and people found them hilarious. Clips of the video spread like wildfire, and soon my family became infamous. Emily, the ugliest woman alive, was ridiculed mercilessly. People on social media obliterated my parents for trying to buy their daughter's fiance. The shame was unbearable. In the end, they were forced to move to another country and change their names. They had racked up a lot of debt from the huge wedding they had organized. Every now and then they try to contact me. I always pick up, just to hear them beg. I would be lying if I said that their pathetic pleas and accusations didn't bring a smile to my face. And every time they blame me for what happened to them, I always say that I would do it all again without a single ounce of regret. And I hang up, then go about my day with my amazing husband and carefree life. Rumors have it that, due to their rushed escape and the debt they owed, they can't return and don't have much money. As a result, they all ended up taking menial jobs. I hear Emily is a cleaner at a zoo, while my parents and Sarah work at a warehouse under a ruthless boss who overworks them. Thanks for watching. One evening, a few days later, I was leaving the grocery store. Max walking beside me, my lap full of groceries. I was always aware that I needed to be careful when I went outside now, but I thought being outside in broad daylight would offer some protection. I was wrong. A car engine revved behind me. I turned. Too late. The bumper hit my wheelchair, knocking my groceries to the pavement. Apples rolled into the gutter. A carton of eggs cracked at my feet. I cried out, hoping someone would have seen it.
Oh, my bad. You okay there, sweetheart?
He was smirking. I clenched my fists. Max whined at my side. My stomach twisted up in angry knots, but I felt helpless. He wasn't just a cop. He was a cop with a grudge.
You should be more careful. Hate to see you get hurt.
Then he drove off, laughing. The worst part was that nobody believed me. The moment he'd driven off. Heya! I'm Emily. I'm an illustrator and I work freelance. My business is quite successful. I live in a nice apartment with my service dog, Max. See, I have a disability. I can't walk more than a few steps at a time. Max is the only way I am safe to go outside because I am prone to fits and can faint without much warning. This all started one day while I was outside with Max. In fact, you might say it started because of Max. He's a good dog. All dogs are good dogs. But on this day, he was the best. He smelled corruption in the air and turned towards it like a sniffer dog. I was sitting in my wheelchair on the patio of my favorite cafe, working on my illustrations, when Max barked. I looked up and saw what he was barking at. Down the alley in a direct line from where I was sitting, I saw a black man in a cop's uniform shaking hands with a skinhead with tattoos reaching out from under his shirt collar. They exchanged a wad of cash. I watched as the cop pocketed the money, clapped the man on the shoulder, and turned. That's when he spotted me. I tried to look away, but I knew he'd seen me, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was about as recognizable as the man the cop had shook hands with. He was a notorious drug dealer, and there was no good reason for any cop to be taking money from him. That was the day my life became a living hell. The first time, I thought it was a coincidence. I was heading home when a police car pulled up beside me, crawling at my pace.
Lost, sweetheart?
His voice was syrupy, fake. I ignored him, kept rolling forward. I felt like little ants were crawling all over me, an indication that I was in danger. I wasn't sure what to do. When the police are the ones harassing you, who do you go to? Suddenly, my wheelchair jerked backward. My stomach lurched as I scrambled to grip my wheels. People grabbing my chair is a pet peeve. People don't understand what it's like, having your whole body in something so easily manipulated by others. The chair is an extension of myself in so many ways that when someone else touches it, it's a violation. That tingling sense of danger from before quickly became a wildfire across my skin. The police officer from before turns my chair around and then crouches down so that he's at my level. It's demeaning, and I hate him all the more for it.
I asked you a question.
I swallowed my fear. I live down the block.
Not anymore. The street's closed. Turn around.
I glanced past him. The road was empty. No cones, no signs. It's not closed. Cole stood back up to his full height and looked at me. His fingers drummed on the roof of his car. He smiled, slow and deliberate.
It is for you.
What could I do? I turned, and that was the first of many. I never said anything about what I saw. He knew that, but it didn't seem to affect him. He was trying to get ahead of the threat, I guess. Wanted to intimidate me into silence. I wanted to ask him why he was willing to take the risk. Why would he bother me like this if he wanted me to stay silent? But I was already too scared to say anything. He was just cementing that fear. Some days, he'd follow me, cruising slowly in his patrol car just close enough for me to hear the hum of his engine. It was like having a silent stalker whom I was constantly aware of, with that prickling at the back of my neck, but that I never saw. I think he liked those days the best. The days when I'd turn around, breathless with fear, and see an empty street behind me. Other days, he'd block the sidewalk, forcing me into the street. Those days probably gave him a different kind of pleasure. On those days, he got to witness my panic and laugh up close.
What are you going to do, princess? Ram me?
It didn't take long for him to grow bolder. I began to fear every moment I went outside of my house. I had to go to the store often for art supplies for my illustrations that the clients wanted in hard copy. But sure enough, every time I went to the store, he was there, lurking, reminding me that nowhere was safe. A week after I last saw him, he emerged from an alley near my apartment and the art store. He smiled, leaned in close to me, burst my wheelchair tires, then smiled again and said,
Let's see how you go to God knows where you were planning to go to.
One evening, a few days later, I was leaving the grocery store. Max walking beside me, my lap full of groceries. I was always aware that I needed to be careful when I went outside now, but I thought being outside in broad daylight would offer some protection. I was wrong. A car engine revved behind me. I turned. Too late. The bumper hit my wheelchair, knocking my groceries to the pavement. Apples rolled into the gutter. A carton of eggs cracked at my feet. I cried out, hoping someone would have seen it.
Oh, my bad. You okay there, sweetheart?
He was smirking. I clenched my fists. Max whined at my side. My stomach twisted up in angry knots, but I felt helpless. He wasn't just a cop. He was a cop with a grudge.
You should be more careful. Hate to see you get hurt.
Then he drove off, laughing. The worst part was that nobody believed me. The moment he'd driven off, one of the security guards ran forward to help me.
Ma'am, are you okay?
Did you see? Did you see the cop hit me with his car?
I'm sure you're mistaken, lady. A cop would never hit a disabled woman. That's just plain wrong.
I decided not to let it go. I wheeled myself all the way to the precinct to lodge a complaint.
Cole's one of our best. Maybe you're just confused, sweetheart.
Confused? I wasn't confused. I was his prey. And it only got worse. One night he cornered me in an alley, lights flashing, blocking both exits.
You like watching people, huh?
I gripped Max's leash, my fingers trembling. I don't know what you mean.
Oh, I think you do.
He leaned in, whispering.
You keep poking around where you shouldn't. You might not make it home one night.
Then he grabbed Max's leash, ripped it from my hands. Max barked, fought, but Cole yanked hard. No! Max! My heart was hammering in my chest so hard that my ribs began to ache. Max pulled and pulled, trying to get back to me, but Cole was strong and relentless. Cole shoved Max into the back of the police car and he turned to me, eyes glinting under the red and blue lights.
Consider this a lesson in minding your own damn business.
And then he drove away, leaving me alone, in the dark, stranded. I was devastated, but that anger gave way to rage, which pushed me further than I'd ever gone before. That was the breaking point. He took my dog, my lifeline. Max was sometimes all that stood between me and not waking up the next day. But more than that, Max was my best friend. So I made a plan, and I made sure he'd never see it coming. My best friend Tasha was a journalist, a damn good one. I gave her a call the night that Max was taken. I explained everything to her, and she was ready to tear Cole to the ground.
We're gonna burn this bastard so badly that no one will ever recognize him.
We needed proof. After hearing about the way that the other cops talked about him, I knew they thought the sun shone out of him. They wouldn't trust a word I said until I could show them I wasn't crazy. Unfortunately, Cole was careful. He never harassed me in front of others, never left a paper trail. I was able to get Max back after calling the police station and explaining that my dog was taken after a misunderstanding and that I needed him because he was a service dog. The officer who brought him over told me I should keep him under better control, as though it were my fault that Cole had randomly decided to kidnap him. But I had Max back, and that was important. And secondary to that, Max could be used to get evidence. I embedded a tiny recorder in his collar, and I waited. 2 days later, Cole returned. I had Max's leash in one hand. He came over and grabbed my wheelchair and started to push me towards the park. As it always did when someone grabbed my chair without consent, my heart rate sped up.
Miss me?
I stayed silent. I clenched my fists. He grinned.
You don't get it, do you? I own this city. My dad's the chief. You're nothing.
He leaned down, closer, his breath hot against my skin.
You ever try to ruin me, I'll make sure you disappear. If you tell a single soul what you saw that day with the drug dealer, I'll end you. No one would believe you anyway if you saw me taking a bribe. I'm the city's sweetheart cop. You're just a woman who can't even walk.
I forced a smile. You done? He blinked.
What?
I tapped Max's collar. Nice little speech you just gave. Realization hit. His eyes darkened. He reached out towards Max again, and his mouth opened. But I beat him to it. Tasha's live streaming it right now. He turned, panic flashing across his face. Oh, and by the way, you might want to check the news. It spread like wildfire. Tasha uploaded everything. The bribes, the threats, the abuse. By morning, he was everywhere. The mayor issued a statement. The police department went into crisis mode. Cole was suspended immediately. And the best part, the drug lord he'd been working with, he was immediately arrested. Turns out Cole was ready to turn every name over for a little bit of leniency. But he was still charged to 10 years for multiple crimes. He thought he was untouchable. Turns out prison had other plans. Word spread fast inside. They learned that not only was he an ex-cop, he was also a snitch. He tried not to let it get to him. During the first week, he continued to carry himself like a cop. By the second week, that was beaten out of him, literally. One day, a tray of food accidentally landed in his lap. Another, he was found locked in a supply closet, bruised and shaken. By the third month, He was scrubbing toilets. No backup, no power, no badge, just another nobody in orange. Looks like you're finally where you belong. Cole didn't even say anything. He just continued to scrub the floor of the prison. From my place in the cafeteria, guarded by the jailers, I drew him. Turns out stories about cops being corrupt were popular, and when I started to draw up comics about Cole, they sold like wildfire. Now, while he was in here on his hands and knees, I was moving up in the world. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
He was special simply because my parents decided he was. The golden child, their firstborn, the son who mattered. When Edwin scored the winning touchdown at his high school football game, my parents threw him a party that cost more than they'd spent on all my birthdays combined. I was 14 then, and I spent the night serving drinks to Edwin's friends while my brother held court in our living room, basking in adoration. That's what a real man looks like. My father whispered to me as he watched Edwin surrounded by cheerleaders. "You could learn something from your brother if you'd stop being so sensitive." Why would I want to learn how to be a jerk? Oh, stop being so jealous. No one likes a whiny boy who is jealous of his brother. Can't you ever not be so negative? I didn't want to be like Edwin. I wanted to be seen for who I was. But in our household, there was only room for one son. At least as far as my parents were concerned. One of the worst episodes, though, was when I came down with strep throat. I had a really terrible fever. It was so bad that I began to have hallucinations. I begged my parents to take me to the hospital, but they were too concerned about keeping me away from Edwin so that he wouldn't get sick, and so they went on vacation and only returned once I had fully recovered. Growing up in the shadow of my brother Edwin was like living life permanently eclipsed. My name is Freddie, and for as long as I can remember, I was the forgotten son. It always felt like I was playing second fiddle to him. On my 7th birthday, my parents forgot to buy me a cake because they were busy preparing for Edwin's baseball game the following weekend. When I brought home straight A's in the 4th grade, my father grunted without looking up from Edwin's B- essay that he was helping improve. My mother didn't even acknowledge my report card. Whenever I would complain how things weren't fair and that he got more attention than I did, they would always say the same thing. "It's not fair. You guys never pay attention to me. It's like you don't even love me."
Oh, stop whining, Freddie. No one wants to hear that. It's just that Edwin needs extra attention. He's special. You would understand if you knew better.
Yeah, Freddie, it's the way it is. You don't really need that much attention. It's not like you are going to be doing much with your life. Special. That word haunted my childhood. Edwin wasn't special because he was more intelligent or talented. He was special simply because my parents decided he was. The golden child, their firstborn, the son who mattered. When Edwin scored the winning touchdown at his high school football game, my parents threw him a party that cost more than they'd spent on all my birthdays combined. I was 14 then, and I spent the night serving drinks to Edwin's friends while my brother held court in our living room, basking in adoration. That's what a real man looks like. My father whispered to me as he watched Edwin surrounded by cheerleaders. "You could learn something from your brother if you'd stop being so sensitive." Why would I want to learn how to be a jerk? Oh, stop being so jealous. No one likes a whiny boy who is jealous of his brother. Can't you ever not be so negative? I didn't want to be like Edwin. I wanted to be seen for who I was. But in our household, there was only room for one son. At least as far as my parents were concerned. One of the worst episodes, though, was when I came down with strep throat. I had a really terrible fever. It was so bad that I began to have hallucinations. I begged my parents to take me to the hospital, but they were too concerned about keeping me away from Edwin so that he wouldn't get sick, and so they went on vacation and only returned once I had fully recovered. I'm amazed that I didn't pass away. But the breaking point didn't come until high school ends. The night I graduated high school with honors, Edwin crashed his car after drinking at a party. I stood alone on the stage, scanning the audience for familiar faces that weren't there. My parents had rushed to the hospital to be with Edwin, who had a minor concussion and a scratch on his forehead. They didn't even call to tell me they weren't coming. When I arrived home still wearing my graduation gown, my mother was crying in the kitchen. "Where were you guys? You missed my entire graduation."
Your brother could have died, and all you care about is some silly ceremony.
It's not some silly ceremony. I graduated high school. It's kind of a big deal. We had far more important things to be concerned with, Freddie. We simply do not care about some dumb ceremony. It's not like you got an award or anything. I did graduate with honors.
That's nice, dear.
They didn't care. I knew they wouldn't, but it still hurt. That was the moment I decided I was done. I packed my bags that night and left before dawn. I didn't leave a note. I wanted to see how long it would take them to notice I was gone. 3 weeks later, my roommate at the small apartment I'd rented answered a call from my mother.
Is Freddie there? Edwin's birthday dinner is tonight, and I need him to pick up the cake.
Not, "Where have you been?" or "We've been worried sick?" Just an errand for Edwin's birthday. My roommate told her I'd moved out weeks ago. She hung up without asking where I'd gone. I thanked him for covering for me. I put myself through design school by working 3 jobs. I slept 4 hours a night and survived on ramen and ambition. By my second year, I designed a line of affordable, stylish menswear that caught the attention of a small manufacturer. That first round of exposure blew up, and the amount of sales that those designs made allowed me to be able to quit all my part-time jobs. By graduation, I had made enough money that I was able to buy my first factory and a modest but growing brand. 10 years passed without a word from my family. In that time, I built Frederick Apparel into an empire. My clothes were known for their quality, style, and ethical manufacturing practices. I owned 17 factories across Asia and South America, employed thousands, and was featured in every major fashion magazine. My face was on billboards in Times Square and Shibuya Crossing. And then, predictably, they found me. The call came through my assistant.
There are people on the phone that claim to be your parents. They are insisting on speaking with you.
You've got to be kidding me. Put them through.
Freddie, is that you? We saw you in a magazine. Why didn't you tell us you'd become famous?
No hello. No apology. No acknowledgement of 10 years of silence. What do you want?
That's no way to speak to your mother. We raised you better than that.
You didn't raise me at all. I was practically self-raised. There was a pause, and then my mother's voice softened into the tone she used when she wanted something.
We're so proud of you, Freddie. We always knew you had potential.
Cut the crap. What do you want? Edwin needs help. Of course. It always came back to Edwin. Apparently, my brother had bounced from job to job for years. He'd tried acting, sales, and most recently, motivational speaking. All failures. Now, upon seeing my success in fashion, Edwin had decided that he, too, had always had a passion for clothing design.
He has such vision. He just needs an opportunity.
And financial backing. And your connections, of course. I should have hung up. I should have blocked their numbers and gone back to my life. But something dark and long suppressed stirred inside me. You know, I'm actually expanding the business, opening a new factory.
That's wonderful.
I could use someone like Edwin, someone with vision. My parents were ecstatic. When I suggested a meeting, they insisted that Edwin join. And so, a week later, I found myself sitting across from the family that had forgotten me, watching them salivate over the opportunity I dangled before them. Edwin had grown pudgy and balding, but his smile still carried that entitled confidence I remembered. "So, little brother, finally realized you need some real talent in your company?" Something like that. I laid out my proposition. I told them that I was opening an exclusive new factory in North Korea. It was unprecedented, an American fashion company operating in the reclusive kingdom. The potential for profit was enormous, but it required extreme discretion. Why North Korea? Labor costs, tax advantages, and exclusivity. No other Western fashion brand has access. Plus, I've convinced them that it would do wonders for American and North Korean relations. And you want me to run it? I want you to be the face of it, the Frederick brand in Asia, starting with our most exclusive operation.
It sounds dangerous.
It requires connections, I'll admit. But I've been negotiating with a high-ranking official there, General Park Min-ho. He's arranging everything. In reality, General Park had been publicly executed for treason 3 months earlier. I knew this because I'd researched it meticulously. Not many people would know that, though, but I had used some of my connections to learn of this, as it made my plan possible. I'll need you to go first. Meet with General Park. Establish the relationship. I'll follow with the technical team once you've secured his trust. Why can't you go first? Because General Park specifically requested to meet the founder's family before proceeding. It's a cultural thing. They value family enterprises. If you're not comfortable with it, I understand. I can find another opportunity for Edwin. No, I want this. We'll go. My parents nodded in agreement, their eyes gleaming with the prospect of Edwin's success and the wealth that would follow. I spent the next month preparing them. I created fake documents, arranged their flights, and coached them on what to say when they arrived. I told them to immediately ask for General Park Min-ho, as they were very good friends with him, and to mention they were there for the Dragon Pearl Project, a name I invented that sounded suitably clandestine. I told them that they needed to say that they had been working with him for a long time. Remember, North Korea is extremely sensitive about security. Stick to the script exactly. The day they left, I drove them to the airport. My mother hugged me for the first time in decades.
I always knew you'd take care of your brother. Deep down, you've always looked up to him and knew that he was special.
I smiled and waved as they passed through security, carrying their one-way tickets to Pyongyang. 3 days later, I received confirmation that they had been arrested upon arrival. Demanding to meet with a disgraced, executed general while mentioning a non-existent secret project had exactly the effect I anticipated. They were detained as spies. While the trial was ongoing, I heard rumors from a friend who lives in South Korea that my family was helping the regime by appearing in propaganda videos on social media, in English. I also heard that my brother was being trained as a traffic controller, in case he's ever allowed to live freely again. I did feel guilt, a brief, sharp pang when I imagined their confusion and fear. But then I remembered my graduation night, standing alone on that stage. I remembered every birthday forgotten, every achievement ignored. Every day I was made to feel worthless while Edwin was treated like royalty. 6 months later, after various diplomatic channels confirmed what I already knew, that they had been tried as spies and executed, I opened a champagne bottle in my penthouse overlooking Central Park. I toasted the empty room, watching the city lights twinkle below. I sometimes wonder if I'm a monster for what I did. Perhaps. But my parents and Edwin taught me an important lesson growing up. Some people matter, and some don't. They just never imagined they'd end up on the wrong side of that equation. My newest fashion line launched last week. The critics are calling it my best work yet. Hauntingly beautiful, one reviewer wrote. If only they knew how apt that description truly was. The guilt fades a little more each day. After all, they made my life a living hell. And now, I use their greed to help speed their way towards being sent to actual hell. Funny how things work out. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
We decided to dress up a little bit when we went to the courthouse together. It was going to be the fastest wedding ever, but I still wanted it to be memorable. Josh looked so handsome in his black tuxedo. I was filled with so much happiness and sadness at the same time. I loved him so much, but this wasn't how I expected my wedding day to be at all. Just as we were about to say our vows to each other, someone came crashing in through the doors.
You two left for this? Do you know how much work you're missing right now? Neither of you have cleaned my car yet.
It's Saturday. We're not even supposed to be working today in the first place, much less cleaning your car.
It's just becoming clear to me how little the two of you care about your careers.
It was at this moment that I snapped. I had sacrificed so much for this woman for so many years, thinking that it would be better for my career in the long run. It finally dawned on me that she was never going to help my career anyways. She was just using people as her little slaves to do what she wanted them to do, and had no intention of ever helping them get anywhere. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always loved clothes. I would spend lots of late nights flipping through a fashion magazine and fantasizing about what it would look like to have my own designs in there one day. I liked styling outfits together and making other people feel good about what they wore. So it made sense for me to study fashion design once I graduated high school. In college, I was a promising student. People would always tell me how amazing my designs were. I became so hopeful about my future and finally living my dream. Once I graduated, I had my pick of working at whatever fashion magazine I wanted, and I chose the magazine that I had loved as a child. Instead of it feeling like a dream come true to finally work at my dream job, it was a nightmare. Growing up, the founder of the magazine had been such an inspiration to me. She created the magazine herself and had been running it for the past 30 years. She turned the magazine into one of the most popular ones in the country. I had dreamed about becoming just like her when I was a little girl. They say never meet your heroes for a reason, I guess. Joan, my boss, had such impossible standards for everyone, and nothing anyone did was ever good enough for her. She kept saying that her work ethic was how she got to where she was today. She would have all the designers submit 400 sketches to her by the end of the day, every day. Half of the time, she never liked any of the submissions, anyways, and would make them redo all of them. Everyone would have to stay late to meet her insane request deadlines, with no overtime pay. People missed a lot of important events outside of work, but we were too afraid to tell her that her expectations for the magazine were too high. We were too afraid of losing our jobs. If you wanted to make a name for yourself in the fashion world, you needed to stay on Joan's good side. She was very quick to fire anyone who dared to stand up to her. But it wasn't just the work for the magazine. She would have us do work that was clearly not for the magazine at all. She would call us all into work to do things for her like washing her car, doing her laundry, and even picking up her kids from school. It was like we were her slaves. One day, I overheard someone try to talk to her about it.
Joan, I can't be coming in this weekend to clean your house. I'm a fashion designer, and I came here to design clothes. Working as your maid isn't part of my job description.
As long as you work here and want to make a name for yourself in this industry, you're going to do what I tell you to do. But since you don't like it, I won't make you do it. You're fired. Get out.
As much as we all hated her, she was a powerful person in the industry, and if we wanted to get anywhere with our careers, we had to do what she said. It was especially hard because she wouldn't let us have lives outside of work, at all.
Ms. Joan, my son's first birthday is coming up, and I was hoping that I might be able to have a day off this weekend to spend it with him. I've been having so many late nights in the office lately that I haven't been able to spend any time with him in months.
You want a day off this weekend?
Yes, please, that would be so wonderful.
Of course you can have it off. In fact, you can have the whole weekend off.
Oh my goodness, really?
Weekends are for lazy good-for-nothings, and if you're not serious about your career here, then neither am I. You're fired. Get out!
I was so scared of her for so long that I put so much of my personal life on hold for years. I didn't date. I didn't travel. I didn't do anything except work. Despite her being a terrible boss, I wanted to impress her so that I would have the confidence to finally create my own fashion company. After years, I started bonding with my coworker Josh, who worked late nights with me. We mostly talked about how terrible our boss was. We slowly got to know each other more as we spent more time together, and I began to fall in love with him. He made being there a little less terrible by telling me little jokes and encouraging me in my designs. We started dating and eventually decided to get married. The problem was the very thing that brought us together in the first place. When on earth would we have time to get married? Joan never approved time off requests, and if she ever heard about them, she would immediately fire whoever requested the time off. We talked about it together and eventually decided to risk it. We were in love with each other and wanted to get married, so we deal with whatever consequences that followed. We didn't dare request a whole day off, or even bother to plan an extravagant wedding out of fear of losing our jobs. Instead, we sneaked to Bethany in HR and asked for a couple of hours off so that we could stop by a courthouse to say our vows to each other and sign some paperwork. It wasn't glamorous or what I imagined my dream wedding to be, but I thought that was the only thing that would be quick enough so that Joan wouldn't fire us. Bethany readily agreed and submitted the paperwork. We decided to dress up a little bit when we went to the courthouse together. It was going to be the fastest wedding ever, but I still wanted it to be memorable. Josh looked so handsome in his black tuxedo. I was filled with so much happiness and sadness at the same time. I loved him so much, but this wasn't how I expected my wedding day to be at all. Just as we were about to say our vows to each other, someone came crashing in through the doors.
You two left for this? Do you know how much work you're missing right now? Neither of you have cleaned my car yet.
It's Saturday. We're not even supposed to be working today in the first place, much less cleaning your car.
It's just becoming clear to me how little the two of you care about your careers.
It was at this moment that I snapped. I had sacrificed so much for this woman for so many years, thinking that it would be better for my career in the long run. It finally dawned on me that she was never going to help my career anyways. She was just using people as her little slaves to do what she wanted them to do, and had no intention of ever helping them get anywhere. I stood there for a moment, thinking about all of the times that I had let her bully about how I led my life because I was so afraid of getting on her bad side. Heck, I almost sacrificed having the wedding of my dreams just because I was so afraid that she would fire me. I had had enough. You know what? You're right. I've worked for you for 5 years, have never taken a sick day or a vacation day, or even had a life outside of work because I'm not serious about my career. I've been terrified of you, but you don't scare me anymore. I quit.
Me too. Now we have time to have a real wedding instead of a rushed one in the courthouse.
Neither of you can quit because you're both fired. I'll make sure you don't get a job anywhere ever again.
Josh and I had enough money saved up to have the wedding of our dreams, like we had always wanted. We had a destination wedding in a beautiful foreign country, with all of our families there. We invited all of our co-workers, and after hearing what had happened, all of them quit working for Joan. They were inspired by us for having stood up to her, and decided to stand up to her themselves. A lot of them took to social media to tell the world how terrible she was as a boss. Their videos went viral, and no one wanted to work for her anymore. After our beautiful honeymoon together, we decided that in order to have the fashion designing career we had always wanted for ourselves, we would need to create our own magazine company. We told all of our coworkers, and they all readily agreed to come work for us. All of us worked hard as a team, and with all of our experience working under Joan for so long, we had an amazing magazine that quickly became more popular than Joan's magazine ever was. I was so happy that I was finally working for myself, like I had always wanted, and had the loving husband of my dreams. This was the life I had always wanted for myself. I was just mad that it took me this long to finally stand up for myself and get it. Our magazine company expanded so quickly that we became global fashion icons. We didn't let the success get to our heads, though. Josh and I had very strict employee standards, and made sure that we never treated any of our coworkers like Joan had treated us.
Did you hear?
Did I hear what?
Joan's magazine company flopped. No one wants to work with her because they heard how terrible she was to her employees. She had to declare bankruptcy.
Oh my gosh, really? What is she doing now then?
No one knows. She just disappeared.
I soon found out where she went. Thanks to the success of our magazine, Josh and I were able to hire maids from a cleaning company. They sent different maids to our home every weekend to clean up, do our laundry, and wash our car. One weekend, I recognized one of the maids that was cleaning our house. It was Joan. When she saw me, she busted into tears and got on her knees.
This is so embarrassing. This maid company is the only place that will hire me after everything that happened with my previous company. Will you please hire me? You know how good I am at my job, and it's such a waste of my talents for me to be scrubbing toilets for the rest of my life. I'm so much better than this. You wouldn't have gotten where you are today without me. This is the least you could do to return the favor of me helping you with your career.
You never helped me with anything in my career. Everything I have today is because I worked my butt off for it. All you did was hold me back and make me do your chores. I would never ever hire you to work for me. After she left my house, I called the maid company and told them that I didn't want her to ever clean my house again. They asked me what happened. I simply told them how bad she smelled and that she didn't do the job properly. A few months later, I heard she was fired from her job and is currently in search of any job to survive. Karma is a funny thing. She spent so much of her life making people do her house chores, promising them a boost in their career that she never gave. Now she's spending the rest of her life as a has-been CEO and a maid, cleaning up for other people. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
I can't even look at him. He freaks me out. I'm sorry if this discomforts you both, but we can't go back to the house with him. Even worse, Freddie is afraid of how he looks. He can barely bring his friends home.
My grandparents were livid.
How can you say such in front of your son? Just because he has a disease doesn't make him scary.
I feel ashamed. How can you both be so selfish and heartless? He's your son just as much as Freddy is. If you leave him here today, I promise you, I will not allow you both have any rights over him.
We never wanted it. We're fine with Freddy. You can both keep the sick one. He might die soon anyway. Those itchy patches will drive him crazy. You can deal with it.
My name is Ollie, and I suffer from a skin condition called psoriasis. I was born with it, and apparently, my parents didn't like that. The disease caused red and scaly patches on my skin, giving me a rough look. My twin brother, Freddy, on the other hand, didn't have it. He was born with great skin and a more handsome face. He also had jet black curly hair, while I had ginger, straight, and thin hair. I envied my brother a lot. While growing up, my parents were very clear about who they loved the most among us. While they made me wear thick clothes that didn't show any skin, my brother was free to wear whatever he wanted. The thick clothes they made me wear caused irritation to my skin and made my condition even worse. When we were out, I would try to take in the discomfort and control myself until we were home. Sometimes I succeeded. Other times, I didn't. On days like that, I would burst into tears, begging them to take some of the clothes off. However, my parents would refuse and silence me. They didn't want anyone knowing about my condition, so they preferred to have me crying and in discomfort than to help me. It got to a point where they stopped taking me with them, as even my cries were embarrassing for them. Although it hurt to see them taking just my brother, I was relieved to be at home. My brother, on the other hand, rarely spoke to me. He'd requested to be in a different room around the time we were 6. According to him, he felt uncomfortable around me and had nightmares about me turning into a monster. Of course, my parents had us separated. Once we began sleeping in different rooms, my brother became a completely different person. He refused to speak to me and only did when he needed to warn me against getting closer to him. I tried to speak to him about his behavior and preach about love between siblings, but he was quick to shut me up. I'm not your brother. I can't be brothers with a monster like you. Don't you see how different we look? Truthfully, we were different. We had only a slight resemblance. Most people hardly believed we were twins. After failing to talk to him, I decided to back off completely. I was alone in my family. About the time when my twin and I were 9, my parents stopped me from eating with them in the dining room. According to their reason, Freddy was scared of my condition since it was getting worse. But it isn't contagious. I heard the doctor say that.
Well, your brother is scared and the only thing we can do is protect him. Honestly, I also don't believe the doctor's words. I can't have you infecting us with this.
I'd never felt so hurt and betrayed. I began eating in my room all alone. Even worse, they got me separate dishes and cutlery, as they didn't want me sharing theirs for fear of contracting my disease. It was enough that I was bullied at school for it, but it was unfair that even my family were doing the same. I was treated as though I had the worst disease ever. One afternoon, I was in my room when I heard someone enter the house. I'd been waiting for my parents, as I needed to tell them about some things I had to get at school. Once I heard the door open, I rushed out of my room. I knew I wouldn't be able to speak to them if they weren't in the living room, as I was prohibited from going into their room. However, on getting to the living room, instead of my parents, I met my brother with a young girl about our age, and 3 boys who had tough expressions on. "What the hell are you doing? Who asked you to come out?" I explained to him my reason for being in the living room, but he didn't believe. "I know you did this intentionally. You came out to embarrass me before my friends with your disease." I couldn't believe him. How could he think I'd intentionally bring myself out to his friends? I mean, Freddy wasn't as smart as him, so I never expected him to be highly sensible. But I didn't think he'd be so dumb. He yelled at me and asked me to return to my room. I didn't argue. I immediately turned away and went back to my hole. It continued that way until I was 10, and my family decided that they'd had enough of me and needed me out of their lives. Firstly, they stopped me from going to school because my flare-ups had gotten worse. I thought they'd get me a home tutor, but they didn't do that. My education was paused indefinitely, and I was left alone at home every day while my parents went to work and my brother school. 2 months later, it was my and Freddy's birthday. I'd anticipated a little celebration since it was our 10th one, but I got disappointed. On our birthday, while I got locked in my room, a birthday party was held for my twin. I didn't get any wishes or even a cake from my parents. All I got was a bowl of cereal, and I was forgotten for the rest of the day until the next morning.
Make the house sparkling clean before we return home.
I was so pissed. How could they ignore me and still make me clean after the celebration? I would refuse, but I couldn't bring myself to disobey my mother. I cleaned everywhere like I'd been asked to, and quickly returned to my room afterward. About 3 months later, they took me with them to my grandparents. They hadn't seen me for a while, so they were shocked to see how bad my condition was. As they were offering ways to help me control it, my parents suddenly stood up. We have to leave now. We didn't plan to stay for long. I'd felt bad and wondered why they brought me if it was going to be so short. My grandparents were also vocal about not wanting me to leave soon. My parents' next words shocked me. We're not going with him. We're leaving him here with you. We can't take care of him any longer.
I can't even look at him. He freaks me out. I'm sorry if this discomforts you both, but we can't go back to the house with him. Even worse, Freddie is afraid of how he looks. He can barely bring his friends home.
My grandparents were livid.
How can you say such in front of your son? Just because he has a disease doesn't make him scary.
I feel ashamed. How can you both be so selfish and heartless? He's your son just as much as Freddie is. If you leave him here today, I promise you, I will not allow you both have any rights over him.
We never wanted it. We're fine with Freddie. You can both keep the sick one. He might die soon anyway. Those itchy patches will drive him crazy. You can deal with it.
Not only was I hurt, my heart was completely shattered. How could my parents treat me so unfairly? As I watched them leave, I couldn't find any tears. My eyes ached, but I couldn't cry. My grandparents comforted me and assured me that I'd be fine with them. They did stick to their words. They took me to a good hospital where new drugs were administered to me. According to them, my situation hadn't gotten better, mostly because I had been taking cheap drugs that could barely do anything. Luckily, my grandparents were both wealthy and loved me. I was homeschooled for 1 year until my situation improved. The flare-ups had reduced, and my skin had become nearly clear due to the skincare routine I was following alongside my drugs. I was registered at a private school afterward, which was 1 year and 3 months later. All the while, my parents never checked on me. In fact, they moved to another city, according to what I heard from my grandparents. Time flew, and I was finally done with college. I was 23 then, and my grandparents had gotten older. My grandfather had a company. It was so popular, but I could see that it had the potential to be. I talked to him about my ideas, and he made me the vice president so I could bring the ideas to life. And I did. Barely 2 years later, the company's fame had skyrocketed. Unfortunately, my grandparents both died in their sleep after my 25th birthday. It was so heartbreaking for me, as they were the only family members I had. I ensured to give them a befitting funeral. My parents suddenly showed up one day after their funeral. They were demanding for the company. According to them, I didn't belong to the family, so I didn't deserve it. I argued that I was, since I was their son, but they refused.
We disowned you 15 years ago, so you aren't a part of our family. Leave the company to us.
I refused. I wasn't going to let them take the company I'd worked so hard for. Fortunately, while we were arguing, a man walked in and introduced himself as my grandfather's lawyer. He also revealed that my grandfather wrote his will. My parents immediately began dancing in excitement. We all sat down, and the lawyer began. It was very brief. Apparently, my grandfather had more properties than I thought, and also a fat bank account. And well, he willed 90% of his properties to me, and the other 10% to orphanages around. My parents couldn't believe their ears. They tried to argue, but the lawyer also provided a video of my grandfather saying it, so they were convinced that it wasn't a lie. They immediately went on their knees, begging me.
Your brother is in a critical condition. Help us, please.
It turned out that my brother had been living a very wayward life. He was a thief, a gambler, a liar, among other things. He'd gotten my parents in and out of jail several times. The last one that landed him in the hospital was worse. He'd broken into someone's house to steal, but a fire had started, and he got trapped in. Before he could be rescued, he'd gotten burnt severely. He was at a hospital and needed treatment immediately, but my parents had gone broke. They'd used their money in paying off several debts he owed. Before the fire incident, they were forced to sell their first house to pay a gang he'd gambled with, and with the remaining money, they'd gotten a smaller house. They'd planned to pay my brother's bill and move to a bigger house, but they got no inheritance. I had no plan to render any help to them. I chased them out, threatening to report them to the cops if they dared to show themselves before me again. That was the only way I could get back at them for abandoning me. The universe showed its back to them once again. By the time they reached home, they discovered that the community had burned their small house, alongside everything they had in it. Apparently, they'd found out that Freddie had accidentally caused the fire while he was trying to steal from the family. There was a candle on, and he'd kicked something that hit it. The only way to get back at him was to burn my parents' house. They cried their eyes out, but no one came to their aid. They had no one to turn to. My brother eventually passed away, and my parents were forced to get menial jobs where the pay could barely even feed them well. They slept in the streets, where they often got beaten by dangerous guys. Meanwhile, my psoriasis was continuously kept under control, and no one knew unless I told them. I got married a few years later and had 2 beautiful kids with my wife. As for my parents, well, I heard about their demise 2 weeks after it happened. They had been robbed and stabbed by some crazy gang members for a few dollars. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.